Hello and welcome back to Sweet Sycamore. I'm Nicole. I love doing devotions with you, and we are in our Among the 12 series, and we are talking about James and John. In our last devotion, we talked about how Jesus gave them the nickname, the Sons of Thunder, and also how they are living up to that nickname. When Jesus wasn't received in a city, they're like, call down fire from heaven, like wipe it out. They were totally okay with committing mass murder. I mean, they were thunderous for sure. But they weren't just thunderous towards people that offended them or people they didn't know. We're going to start our story in Mark 10, verse 35, and hear what they have to say to their own friends, the disciples. It says, Then James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came over and spoke to him. This is Jesus, saying, Teacher, they said, we want you to do us a favor. What is your request? He asked. They replied, When you sit on your glorious throne, we want to sit in places of honor next to you, one on your right and the other on your left. Can you imagine the pre-discussion between James and John of like, okay, when the moment's right, like we'll talk to him, we got to make sure the other disciples aren't around, and let's figure out if we can have these two places of honor. But you know what? Let's make it fair. So we'll let him decide which one's on the right and which one's on the left because, we can do this together, but we'll let him decide that much, right? I mean, these two guys are asking for the most important roles, the right and the left of Jesus. They are confident and they are ambitious. Now let's pick back up in verse, 38. It says, But Jesus said to them, You don't know what you are asking. Are you able to drink from the bitter cup of suffering I am about to drink? Are you able to be baptized with the baptism of suffering I must be baptized with? Oh, yes, they replied. We are able. Drink from my cup means a shared experience. Jesus is asking, are you willing to do like this shared experience with me? And they are treating this like a job interview, like, yep, sign us up. We got this. They have no idea what they are actually saying yes to. Have you ever been in a job interview, or maybe you've been interviewing somebody who you feel like the actual things you are looking for them that they can do and what they think they can do, like it's completely opposite. I mean, it's like this awkward moment where you are talking about two separate things, and yet still they approach with such confidence. Yeah, we can do it. They are asking for the left and the right of Jesus. They are asking for the places of power and authority. The sons of thunder, also called the sons of rage, are saying, we want to be in command. The brothers who are willing to commit mass murder for a whole town on behalf of Jesus, right? Also reveals in them that they don't understand what Jesus is about and what Jesus is doing. And this is very late in the game. The Jews are still expecting Jesus to overthrow the Roman government and to set up a new kingdom. They expected Jesus to end the Roman oppression. And James and John are wanting to be the implementers, which perhaps if this is what Jesus was doing, it would have been a good choice to fulfill his purpose. But they are missing a much larger picture because this is not what Jesus is about. They are ambitious, they are confident, they are also clueless, okay? And so we're going to continue on in verse 39. It says, Then Jesus told them, You will indeed drink from my bitter cup and be baptized with my baptism of suffering, but I have no right to say who will sit on my right or my left. God has prepared those places for those he has chosen. When the 10 other disciples heard what James and John had asked, they were indignant. Oh, James and John have caused a rift between this beautiful body of believers, these disciples, this family core unit. The Hebrew word of indignant is angry, and they're not angry at Jesus. These other 10 disciples are angry at James and John. They have caused division, and we actually see that they have not cared about other people. They are only caring about themselves in this moment and not about the relationships that they are within. And Jesus gives them a lesson, and it's going to start the transformation that we're going to see in James and John. And so let's pick up in verse 42. It says, So Jesus called them together and said, You know that the rulers in this world lord it over their people, and officials flaunt their authority over those under them. But among you it will be different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first among you must be the slave of everyone else. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, and gave his life as a ransom for many. If you really want to be great, you have to learn how to be a slave. The best workout we can do for our heart is actually to stoop down and to serve somebody else, because in serving, our heart is actually becoming bigger. It is growing. And we're never going to have regret when we serve on behalf of God, right? These men who were wanting power and recognition, they were getting a lecture on humility and letting that go completely. If you want to be a ruler and you want to flaunt your authority, well, just so you know, among you, it is going to be different. Whoever wants to be a leader is going to be a servant. Whoever wants to be first is going to be last, and last is going to be first. When we chase self promotion instead of self sacrifice, we are always going to come up lacking. It will never be fulfilling. Has anybody ever served you in a way that really required self sacrifice? Can you think of a person who has given of themselves to serve you, their time, their money, when it wasn't convenient for them? It touches something deep within us when somebody does that for us. What turned these two disciples into filled with rage and trying to take control to two men who would literally give their lives for the gospel of Jesus? I believe that was the firsthand experience of self-sacrificial love that changed James and John. They tangibly saw Jesus model servanthood for them. A man who had every right to hold on to rage at them forgave them, or rage at other people, forgave other people. A man who could hold all of the power in the world, he actually served others. A man who could have held all their faults over them, loved them, and even laughed with them. But this last line that we actually see here, where it says, and he gave his life for the ransom of many, the ultimate act of servanthood. My life for your life. It changed these two men. It changed James and John. Remember when Jesus told them, you will indeed drink from my bitter cup. They actually did. These two men lived a very turbulent life. They lived a life that was very different from their early beginnings, from when we actually see them start the early church. The sons of thunder actually become known as the sons of love. Isn't it amazing that Jesus never leaves us where he finds us? He is always helping us become better. We see James becomes, or the first person to die for his faith. They believe it's about 44 AD. He's not the author of the book of James, that's Jesus' brother, but James did have a massive impact on the early church. Being the first disciple that was killed for his faith, it actually started this close-knit community to flee. And although that could have been scary for many, what it did is it actually started the spread of the gospel of Jesus. Those that once seemed untouchable on this earth became part of this inner circle, realized that they needed prayer and they needed to actually live out what was going to cost them. They became known as martyrs, many of them. So James' death in 44 AD actually started a fire in the body of believers as they went out and told others about Jesus. His life was powerful, but his death actually rattled the church and actually started the dynamic spread of the gospel. James was the first to be killed for his faith, but in contrast, we actually see that John was the last disciple to die, and actually the only disciple that got to die of old age. However, he definitely lived a crazy life. He was plunged into a cauldron of boiling water and emerged unharmed. He was poisoned. He was imprisoned. He was exiled on an island, just to name a few. However, he also went from this thunderous personality to this writer of love. He wrote John, 1st and 2nd, 3rd John, and the book of Revelations, and we actually see that he used the word love 80 plus times. He is the only disciple not to be killed for his faith, but he lived a crazy hard life. James and John did drink from the cup of suffering that Jesus talked about. They were both very humbled in life, and they both lived a life that was really transformed by the power of Jesus. As always, I want to leave you with a couple questions just so that you can take this lesson a little bit step further in your walk with the Lord. And first is this: who has served you in a way that has required personal sacrifice? I think of those that care for me. Even when I don't have to say anything, they just show up. It means so much to me. Second, though, how can we be that type of person for others? The first will be last, the last will be first. How can we grow our heart muscle and really live a life of servanthood for others? The third question is a loaded question, and I hope you have a loaded answer to go with it, and that is, how has seeing the self-sacrificial love of Jesus transformed you? Let me tell you, my life would be drastically different without the love of Jesus. And honestly, I am continually finding other places where I need the sacrificial love of Jesus. I can easily be the daughter of thunder so fast. And I can just acknowledge, oh, this is just who I am, but it's not. I want God to constantly be transforming my life. And I'm reminded that He gave His one and only Son because He loved me that much. And that Son gave His life because He loved me that much. Because He loves this sinful human race, not because of our perfections, but literally just because in the midst of our faults, He sees what we could become. And He doesn't leave us where He finds us. Life was given, blood was shed, not just so that I could mess up and be okay with it, but so that I could accept grace and mercy, and I can receive that, and I can take one more step towards leaving the past Nikki, and hopefully growing in Him. That kind of love really does transform me, and I hope it transforms you too. That transformational love that makes us the daughters of thunders to the daughters of love, just like James and John. Until next time, my prayer for you is that the Word of God comes alive in such a fresh and a new way. And we'll be back again with 2 more great disciples next time.